Good afternoon and welcome back to TMNtv News. I'm Liz Steck and the date is September 26th, 2022. Today we'll take a look at some of the top stories from the last week as well as some local news. But first we'll take a look at some international and national news. The last few weeks have been filled with tension and outrage in Iran as the Iranian people have protested the death of Mahsa Amini. It is reported that after being arrested for not wearing a hijab, a government standard in the country, Amini was beaten severely by the officers and later died due to her injuries. Since the 18th of September, protests have sprung up in different cities across the country. The Iranian government met these demonstrations with severe punishment as well as internet blackouts. According to the Center for Human Rights in Iran, as of September 25th, at least 54 people have been killed by the authorities. The Iranian president, Ebrahim Raisi, has called the protests a foreign influence and threatened a decisive strike on the disruptors of security and the peace of the country. Though there have been protests against the government in the past, many journalists warn that this could be the boiling point for the country. Hurricane Ian is growing stronger as it passes the western tip of Cuba and is on track to hit the west coast of Florida as of early Wednesday. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said the storm has the potential to strengthen into a major hurricane, and we encourage all Floridians to make their preparations. DeSantis also said in a statement, "We are coordinating with all state and local government partners to track potential storm impacts." President Biden also declared an emergency for the state, authorizing the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA to coordinate disaster relief efforts. To learn more information about the Hurricane Ian, visit the National Weather Service at weather.gov. The Fort Hays Faculty Senate held a special meeting on Tuesday to hear from Provost Jill Arnsdorf about the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences reorganization. Introduced to the faculty last spring, the reorganization is being done to prevent the closing of several programs within the college, which do not currently meet the standards required by the Kansas Board of Regents. Several other goals guided Arnsdorf interim college Dean Daniel Blankenship and department chairs as they worked over the summer, which Arnsdorf shared on Tuesday.
Over the summer, we want to create a new organizational structure with an administrative reorganization leading to the following outcomes. Getting in front of the real threat program closures and external threats. Talk more about what those are, although we articulated those back in April. Enhance interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary collaborations. Respond to changing needs, to develop a strategic vision and direction for the college, to right-size the college with the number of administrative units, to realize our college unit and program level marketing strategies, to create leadership and succession planning, and to create efficiencies.
The new administrative structure puts the 11 current departments into 3 departments and 2 schools. Arnsdorf is still taking feedback from individuals and groups this week before the plan is submitted to the Kansas Board of Regents in October. The plan will then be presented to 2 councils and 1 committee throughout the rest of the year before it is presented to the full board in December. More on this story can be found on tigermedianet.com. Sponsored by the Fort Hays Science and Mathematics Education Institute, Science Cafes are monthly presentations hosted at the venue on Vine Street. The most recent took place last Monday and featured Fort Hays professor Paul Adams. Adams spoke about a new NASA project called the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. Here's what Adams said about the project.
The DART mission took off at Thanksgiving of last year. So if you were doing nothing else at Thanksgiving, you could have watched this launch. So less than a year ago, this launched. This is what the satellite really does look like. Big solar panels, these were experimental. And then a specialized camera, and I would say when I say specialized, it's not so much. It's heading towards this mission, this Dymos system that they have, and scheduled to collide next week.
As a result of the project, scientists will be able to gather data on asteroid defense. More on this story can be found on tigermedianet.com, and the next Science Cafe is scheduled for October 24th. Former FHSU president and current Kansas House candidate Ed Hammond hosted another campaign event on Tuesday. This time, Hammond was joined by 75 goats at a local farm to promote sustainable agricultural practices. While the goats grazed on weeds, Hammond shared his key focuses if elected. These include expanding Medicaid, increasing special education funding, and securing more funding for Fort Hays. Tiger Media Network will continue to have coverage of the election, including a live stream of the debate between Hammond and his opponent, Barb Wassinger. The debate is scheduled for 6 p.m. on October 12th and can be watched in person at the Rose Garden Banquet Hall. After some cold and rainy days last week, temperatures have warmed back up. The weather this week will stay pretty consistent, with highs in the low 80s and lows in the mid-50s. The coldest day of the week will be Wednesday with a high of 77 and a low of 52. Friday will be the warmest day of the week with a high of 84 and a low of 56, so get out and enjoy the sunshine. Fall temperatures will be here before you know it. And as always, you can stay up to date with changing forecasts by visiting kwch.com. When we come back, Kaden with sports.
We know you'll love what you see here on our campus in Hays, America.
With over 200 academic programs, small classroom sizes, and a 96% success rate, we will make sure you get the tools you need to succeed.
We are proud to offer you 120 clubs and student organizations, over 300 different intramural activities, and countless other ways to get involved here on campus.
As the most affordable four-year institution in the entire state, we are excited to offer you the best value in education anywhere. Not to mention our robust scholarship programs to help minimize that stress of paying for college.
We hope you enjoyed Tiger Nation, and we can't wait for you to see yourself here.
Welcome to your weekly sports update. I'm Caden Sanders. This week, the football team welcomed Missouri Southern for the Hall of Fame game. The key takeaway from the game was Fort Hays' care of the football. The Tigers fumbled the ball 7 times throughout the game, with 2 of them being on the last 10 yards of the field, fumbling at the Southern 4 and 6 yard lines. Fort Hays gave up a safety early on, which led to Fort Hays losing 25-24. The men's and women's golf team was back in action this past week, as the men's team was in Muskogee, Oklahoma to compete in region head-to-head competition. Fort Hays finished 13th out of 16 teams. Tanner Copeland finished 10th against MIAA opponents. The main story from the competition is local product Trajan McCray of Hays winning the individual competition for Missouri Southern. The women's golf team is hosting their invitational for the first time in a couple years at Smoky Hill Country Club today and tomorrow. If you're free, stop by and watch the Tigers in action. The volleyball team competed in Missouri this past weekend, taking on the 17th ranked team in the nation in Central Missouri. The Tigers took the first set but ultimately lost the next 3 sets. The Tigers then took on the Griffins of Missouri Western on Saturday. The team lost 3-2. The cross-country team will be in action again this week as the team travels to Columbia, Missouri to compete in the Gaines Creek Classic. The men's soccer team competed at home this week against Ouachita Baptist in Harding. The Tigers won convincingly in both games, scoring 4-0 and 5-1. Captain Blake Art earned 3 goals in the 2 games, along with Tyler Lockhart and Augustin Ayala's 2 goals on the weekend. And finally, the women's soccer team was back in action. The Tigers are still undefeated with a 7-0-3 record as they get 2 tough wins against Missouri Northwestern and Missouri Western. We will have more coverage this week over the women's soccer team and how they're still undefeated on their season. Before we go to break, here's this week's upcoming sports events.
The average person uses around 100 gallons of water per day. With only 3% of the water on Earth being fresh water, it is important to be mindful of how much you are using. Turning off the sink while you are brushing your teeth is an easy way to conserve water. It is also important to never leave running water unattended. Replacing leaky faucets is another easy way to cut down on water usage. Also, adjusting the load size on your washing machine will ensure that water is not being wasted. Do your part to help conserve water.
Teachers today are finding new ways to instill old lessons, proving that greatness can be found in everyday places and that you don't need to be famous to be unforgettable.
This is the moment I knew his future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
When you transfer to Fort Hays State University, you discover unmatched affordability, convenience, and powerfully supportive faculty and staff, all with a determination that matches yours. Complete your degree and leap forward in your life and career with Fort Hays State University Online. The best value in education anywhere.
Welcome back. Now we'll take a look at local and campus news. On Saturday, local nonprofit Midway Music Corps Incorporated hosted the 8th annual Rockalua Music Festival at Municipal Park. 10 local and regional bands performed, and area artists had the chance to display Fort Hays alumni Haley Gottschalk and Tana Hierman among those displaying work. Last week was Banned Books Week. In an effort to celebrate the freedom to read and bring awareness to the dangers of censorship, Forsyth Library and Sigma Tau Delta hosted a button-making event in the Union on Wednesday. In addition to making buttons, students could play a trivia game and share which banned books they've read. Some of the books shared by students include The Giver by Lois Lowry and Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Here's Forsyth Library Outreach Specialist Brittany Squire on reasons why books are challenged and banned.
So the number of books that get challenged each year is at an all-time high right now, and really they're being challenged for reasons that make a person or a group uncomfortable. So it might include topics like LGBTQIA+, sexual content, violence, language, racism. So those are just a few of the reasons why people challenge books. And so the purpose of challenging a book is to try and have it removed from school curriculum and from libraries, and then when they're actually banned, that is the removal of those books.
More on this story can be found on TigerMediaNet.com. This past Wednesday, the women of Sigma 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 hosted Pi a Sigma Tri in the Quad to raise money for their philanthropy. I was able to go check it out. On Wednesday, the 21st, the women of Sigma 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 sorority hosted their annual Pi a Sigma Tri event. For $2 for one pie and $5 for two pies, anyone could pick a member of Tri Sigma and pie them in the face. All the money raised at the event went to support their chapter's philanthropy, which is March at Dimes, which supports premature babies, and the Robbie Page Memorial Fund. I spoke with Tri Sigma President Jamie Perez about the event.
Our philanthropy We base it off donating money to the March of Dimes and Robbie's Page Memorial. Our main philanthropic place is the Tri Sigma Foundation, and all this money goes to babies who have been diagnosed with polio or premature babies. So all this fundraising and events that we do, we collect all that money and donate it to those foundations that we have.
The money raised also went towards the Tri Sigma Foundation, which helps support Tri Sigma members in any chapter. Tri Sigma will continue to raise money for their philanthropy with various events throughout the year. With Tiger Media Network, this is Liz Steck. A similar philanthropy event will be held in the spring. Last Thursday, the City of Hays put on Go Truck Go, where families had the opportunities to go look at and climb into city vehicles. These included fire trucks, military vehicles, cop cars, and construction equipment. Along with showing the trucks, city workers handed out candy and school supplies for kids. The City of Hays also provided free pizza and snow cones. Lastly, Fort Hays hosted Family and Friends Weekend with a variety of events taking place on Saturday. The day ended with a tailgate before the football game and a fireworks show afterwards. A full gallery of the day's events will be posted on tigermedianet.com later. And that's a wrap on today's TMNtv News. To stay up to date with local, state, and national news, visit tigermedianet.com, as well as our social media pages. Thank you for watching. I'm Liz Steck, and we'll see you next time.